Welcome to Never Rewrite. I'm Isaac Askew.
And I'm Jeffrey Sherman. And today we're going to be bringing you the first of a special series we call Fuck Up Fridays, where Isaac and I talk about terrible fuck ups in our careers and histories, and giving you a break from the awesomeness that is Never Rewrite and all the glory that it is. These are going to be special episodes for when we just really didn't have our shit together and we needed to fill it. We wanted to keep going, but we
Or
didn't have
guests
anything.
canceled. Yeah.
Or guest canceled, yes. So today we are going to kick it off with the story of how Isaac got his company raided by the FBI.
Oh, well, not the company. The company's
Oh no.
customers. But
Oh, so
still
your
just as
company did
interesting.
the company didn't get raided by the FBI, only the customers.
Only the customers.
Okay, okay.
Which is even
So
more interesting.
so yes. Okay. So you were working for a SAS.
Yeah, well, yes. I was working for a SAS. And I guess some history there. This is like the first place I was out of or one of the first places out of college. So I was really green to the field. um, in software development in general. And also, I didn't really know what to expect out of companies. This is my first, or one of the first rather, jobs that I'd had that was like, you got to take it seriously. You're not in college anymore. This is how things are supposed to work, because I don't have any frame of reference because I hadn't worked at a ton of places yet, besides my own independent stuff.
Yes, and that first
Um,
illusion right there, the idea that just because you're working at a real company with a real job means that they
yeah,
actually do things the right way.
right. I had a lot of assumptions 10 years ago about, everything in the world, like the way businesses work, the way politics work, the way life works. A lot of them proven wrong over the years. But anyway, so this particular company, but at first they just built websites for people. Most of them like WordPress websites.
Mhm.
And then some of the coworkers I was there with, we would be hired to do some of the more tricky WordPress customizations that couldn't be done through like a template or something like that, or through a plugin, or just configuring plugins. However, there was a particular customer that needed uh, basically a visually appealing way to look at their sales. And this was a compounding pharmacy. And so they had sales reps working for them. And I might get this set up a little bit wrong just because, again, I was really focused on delivering the technical perspective and not super familiar with the product.
Well, you should probably tell the listener what a compounding pharmacy is because it's not obvious.
It's not obvious to me either, but from my understanding, they take a bunch of different things, mix them together for like different creams and stuff, and then sell them or attempt to get them sold at certain providers. Uh, yeah, something like that.
Well, so a compounding pharmacy is a pharmacy that will compound the ingredients. So imagine every generic drug is made by somebody, right? Who's like, oh, well, if you want, well, like, I don't know, if you want Tylenol, you get Tylenol. But if you just want acetaminophen, you could go to a compounding pharmacy and be like, hey, make some acetaminophen and make it this strong. And they'll be like, okay, yeah, sure. We'll mix it together and compound you some pills. That's super useful
Hmm.
for people who have allergies to like stuff that's in regular pills. So like
Ah,
I fell into a rabbit hole once and learned lots and lots about people who are allergic to gluten, and many of the regular pills that you would get at the drugstore have gluten in them because they do. And so if you are super gluten sensitive and you need medicine, you might have to go to a compounding pharmacy and have them make you a generic Sudafed, but without the gluten in it.
got it. Okay,
So, or because you've got your own medicine that you want to produce. Sorry, go on.
got it. No, that's okay. That's a good clarification. Because again, like I had a generic idea of what they were doing. I knew they were mixing compounds together, but I didn't know the usefulness of it or the structure very well. Because at the time, I was just a junior engineer, and I'm just trying to build what they tell me to build, which is actually kind of the first problem. Later in my career, I became more familiar with understanding the end effect of how the why we're making money to begin with. But at the time, I didn't really care. It was a job that was paying money. There was a compounding pharmacy doing stuff, and they just needed to see their data better. That's the way I looked at it. So we worked with one of the pharmacies and built a product. So they used a different database. One was called Pinnacle, one was called RX30. They're like
Never heard of
very,
them.
yeah, I never heard of them either. And they were just strange database types. And they basically wanted a way to kind of take all of their sales and display how much money they were making. And then also for the sales reps that went and tried to convince other places to use their compounds, they had like a pyramid structure, not a pyramid scheme, but like a structure of like contractors or sales reps that had their own teams, and those could have their own teams all the way down, and they would earn a certain commission off of these contracts or getting people to sell or
Mhm.
purchase these compounds. But they couldn't see it because this old database was, nobody knew really how to work with it. It was like from the 60s or 70s or something. It was just like a super old thing. And so we needed a way to kind of port that data to something like MySQL that we could understand, like sync it. And then we could toy with it and make a really nice login portal so they could see just how much they made that month, aggregate like all of their, basically add all of their sales, subtract all of their costs, show a nice portal for the sales reps to log in and see how much commission they made and how much they had to pay. Maybe even edit the percentages that they make, if, assuming their contracts change over time, or they get like
Mhm.
a higher percentage or something like that. So that's all we were doing. And we had one pharmacy. I don't know all the details of which pharmacies at the time, but I just remember working with one for a bit, and people loved the product, or so I was told, from
Mhm.
my minimum scope of, it was just a small team of like less than 10 people at the time. So yeah, we built this was the SaaS product. It was like the company's first attempt at building something SaaS, because again, we were doing individual clients WordPress websites before that.
Mhm.
Um, and we were doing well. We found more and more customers that were excited. There were also compounding pharmacies that were really excited to use this product, because again, it made the entire process so much clearer. Imagine like before, they just had a database of sales,
Mhm.
and unless you knew how to navigate that database, which they weren't technical, you couldn't really look and see how your pharmacy was doing. So it solved a big problem for them.
Cool. It sounds
Um,
like it was basically a SaaS for compounding pharmacies that let them visualize their sales data so that they could actually see how much money they were making or not, do their sales commission and everything else.
and
So
how much
super
they had to
powerful.
pay, yeah, pay out for the sales reps. Made it just easier to do the math for them.
Right.
So yeah, it solved a problem. Um, now, separate thread that might seem like a complete digression from the main theme here, but very related. We found out later. We found out through a very strange interaction that there was an FBI office next to us. Completely coincidental.
Mhm.
Like they didn't just set up to spy nearby. They had been there. It was a building. It was unmarked. But one day, my friend Aaron and I were going to get some food
Mhm.
for lunch nearby, and he stopped to throw away the trash in the dumpster nearby. And as he opened the dumpster and threw the trash in on our way out, he saw a really nice briefcase in the dumpster. So he takes the briefcase out and goes, "Wow, okay." And he actually collected briefcases, coincidentally.
Okay.
He just happened to. He's like, "This is a nice briefcase, wow!" And so he takes it, and then we get in the car and we head to our normal spot. As we're leaving, someone kind of pulls up behind me, and I don't think anything of it because we're just leaving. People are queuing up, to take a left turn there to go.
Mhm.
And this is in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, by the way. This setting is important here, for later for the show notes. Uh,
Okay.
um,
We've never actually done show notes.
oh, well, we have, yeah, yeah,
Have? Are you
yeah, yeah.
sure?
Like look at some
Uh,
previous episodes, and I'll show you. Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So anyway, so as I'm driving there, this person is like tailgating me. They're like riding my ass like all the way there, and I'm like, "What is the deal with this guy?" I'm getting really frustrated, and fortunately, it's right down the road anyway. And so we pull into the lot, and actually, the restaurant had closed. We didn't know that, and so we pull up to a
Mhm.
closed restaurant, and then this person pulls up next to us, comes out, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And like just like he's like this built dude. He walks right up to us super confidently, and I notice the guy who's been tailgating me, and I'm like, "What is going on here? Like, did I do something?" And he's gonna like beat the crap out of me. Like, what's going on? And he just pulls out a badge, and it's an FBI. Like, he's the FBI.
Right.
And I'm like, doing okay, just getting some food, like completely startled. And of course, I'm saying I'm getting some food in front of now this closed restaurant, making things look a bit more suspicious. Uh,
Yeah.
and he said, "Hey, did you grab a briefcase? Did you grab something out of the dumpster there?" And we're like, "Yeah." And Aaron's like, "Yeah, I grabbed this briefcase out." He's like, "Why'd you do that?" He's like, "It was in the dumpster. I collect briefcases," which also is a bit strange. Yeah, in front of a closed restaurant, I happen to collect briefcases.
I mean,
And the
if I
guy's like,
saw
"Go ahead."
briefcase in the dumpster, it's a good briefcase. But
Yeah. So the guy's like, "Why don't you get back in your vehicle and follow me back?" And we're like, "All right," because we're not going to say no. Like, this is freaking us out. So we get in, we follow him back, which again is just down the road. Um, and as we pull in, the entire office of the FBI office is like outside waiting for us now. And it's like, we're like, what in the world is going on? Uh, so we pull in. The guy asks us, can we look in the vehicle? And I'm like, yeah, like there's nothing in here. It's just like an old beat down Ford Taurus. So they look in, they grab the briefcase, they start inspecting the briefcase really thoroughly. And then they ask us what we're doing again. We're like, we're just going to get some food. We didn't realize the place was closed, but seriously, that's all we're doing. And then like they at some point, I guess they're convinced that we're just two innocent people and we don't really have any. We tell them we work right next to you, like we're from the office right here. We saw in the dumpster, we just took the trash out, we have trash. And they said, well, you can't take anything from that dumpster, that's an FBI dumpster. No kidding. And I'm like, it's a public dumpster. I don't know what makes it an FBI dumpster. There's no markings on it other than the fact it's like at the backside of the FBI building. But like,
right.
it's like an entire suite of offices, including like a dentist's office and other stuff that were nearby, that all throw their trash there. So I don't know, whatever. But in the end, they clear us to say everything's good, we're fine, and they actually give Aaron the briefcase, which is a
Oh,
fantastic story for
I hope
for
he
him to
has it
tell.
still.
I'm sure he does. And that's so again, obviously from the title of this episode, related. But at the time, we were like, that was the weirdest thing in the world. I've never had anything remotely similar happen to me in my life, and I was just completely baffled. So we go to lunch and we tell everyone the story, and we're just like a little bit shaken, like, what in the world? Why would they care about someone taking a briefcase? Was it like some weird setup or like what's
Sounds like it must have been a setup or something.
very strange? And there's nothing we know of in the briefcase, but maybe they took it out. I don't know. Anyway,
Probably
so
took it
back
out.
to our story. So that lets us know that there's an FBI building next to us, which at the time seems and is a
I mean,
completely
the
unknown
FBI's got to
target.
have buildings somewhere, right? Why not next to
Yeah,
you?
yeah. It just did. I mean, it's literally the next building. So we're just like, wow, okay, that's an FBI office. Now we know. So anyway, the we back to our company. We were growing. We have more pharmacies signing on to use the software. Our CEO seems excited. Money seems to be rolling in. I'm using seems a lot because I found out later a lot of this wasn't as true as I thought it was. Yeah. So and we just keep adding features to this platform. We make it nicer, we make it responsive. We have to worry about HIPAA compliance and security because of like, I guess,
Pharmacies, medical stuff.
yeah, medical stuff. So we learn a lot along the way. We have to work with this provider, like this open database software to use to help sync from this old Pinnacle RX30 kind of thing to sync with MySQL. We found really nice ways to basically have this on client software start syncing data with us, where we're holding all the data, and like we're finding ways to kind of move the data over so we can manipulate it better because the old database is strange. We end up going to like a conference for the PHP software that we built this in. Yes, it was still PHP. This is where I learned PHP, Cake PHP, the framework actually. So we go to that conference. We're paying for conferences. Like we're doing that. They're like, well, cool. We're gonna make it big. I get a percentage of the company. I have equity in it. I'm excited. Like, wow, what are the chances my first startup out of college is going to be,
Gonna hit.
Gonna hit, and then I'm gonna be set for life. At the time, I was like 22 or 3 or something. So some things that stood out is as we were onboarding different pharmacies, we noticed one of them had a network. So it was called the Blank Network. and it had pharmacies like in Alabama and Florida and Utah, and it was just kind of like random states at the time. And so I'm like, oh, interesting. And so we're setting everything up, and I'm trying to find a good way to transition into the part two of the story. But basically, as we onboard more pharmacies, one day, or I guess everything seems okay. I'm trying to think if there's anything in the middle I'm missing here, but I can always go back and add it. But yeah, so on the way back one day, on the way back from lunch one day, we see one of the first pharmacies that signed on with us. They're actually in the same place in Hattiesburg. We still had FBI in front of their building, and they're being raided, and people are seizing like computers and all kinds.
And how
of
did
things.
you know it's the FBI? Did they have their jackets on?
Well, we saw a bunch of law enforcement, and then we looked up the news later, and we found out it was the FBI. I guess there was nothing. I can't think of a generic like an FBI marking or anything at the time. It could be, who knows. But we noticed a big hubbub at the pharmacy and people taking stuff out, so we just assumed it was a raid and assumed it was the FBI, and we were right. So we looked at the news later and we found out they were being raided, and it was something to do with fraudulently billing TRICARE, the Veterans Health Insurance.
Okay.
And so we didn't really know what was going on, but we knew that we were a primary customer. And we were like, okay, well, that's not good. It's got to be a ding to our like bottom line, considering. So we go back to the CEO and we're like, what's going on? And he's like, we don't really know yet. Just to continue work as usual. And we're like, all right. And so I don't know if it was the same day or weeks later, we hear about another network or another pharmacy group getting raided or something akin to that. And so we look up the news related to it, and they have got like a pharmacy in Alabama and Florida and Utah, and I'm like, oh man, because those same states stuck out to me when we onboarded them, because they were just kind of random, like Utah in the middle of the, we were doing this is in Mississippi, so I assumed everybody would be kind of like in Alabama or nearby. So it was a network, it was the same network, and we're like, okay, we'll go back to the CEO, and we're like, what's going on, man? And so it later, as we find out, apparently all the ingredients that go into certain compounds they were using for creams or whatnot, depending on what they use, they can get a kickback from the TRICARE Veterans Health Insurance for certain compounds. So they would actually put compounds unneeded in certain creams, and this is my understanding of it, could be slightly off. They would put the most expensive compounds they could find to get the highest kickback from this insurance, so they could fraudulently bill this insurance to get the most money out. So inadvertently, this platform that we had created to help them with their sales kind of also helped them organize their crime, so to speak. So we had no idea what they were doing. We just gave them a nice portal to do it.
So I guess your portal let them see, oh, these are the compounds that we get paid the most for from TRICARE, from the Veterans Care. Yeah. Therefore, we're going to make these custom creams, and we're going to put the most expensive compounds we can in there, even though they're not really related to whatever the symptoms are.
Well, I don't know if it necessarily made it to where they changed their decision and going, oh, there's a pattern here. I think they might have already been doing it. I think it just kind of helped them see their stats and helped them onboard more salespeople, or maybe it did too. But I do remember seeing TRICARE as like listed as an insurance on a ton of items. And I was like, dang, TRICARE is really popular, not knowing anything about that. I was just building a portal. So, yeah, and then at one point we actually start seeing, we pull into the office one day and we actually see seized like boats, Porsches, vehicles in our parking lot, because the FBI had actually seized assets of some of the people nearby. And ironically, we're like, there's the situation in which the same people, like the FBI, are like seizing the assets, and they're in the parking lot of us. Like, the coincidence is just astounding. Like,
so you build a portal that helps companies defraud the government, and then next door is the FBI, who is raiding your customers, and they're dumping the seized assets in the parking lot.
I'm parking the beat up Ford Taurus next to a Porsche that was seized. Yeah.
Yes.
It's the wildest story. That's why I was saying later the context matters, because you can I actually Googled it before today and typed in like TRICARE fraud, something like that. And the first hit I got was Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
Mm.
Which could be just because Google, knows my
Google
search
probably
history.
knows you. Yeah.
Yeah. But either way, it's an article. I'll put it in the show notes. We can go check it out. And then years later, John Oliver did an episode about compounding pharmacies fraudulently billing to TRICARE Health Insurance because it wasn't even just a Southern Mississippi thing; it was all over.
Mhm.
So there was an entire like hour-long episode of his weekly show that covered it, and I was like leaning forward, wondering if they would say any names that I knew, and they actually didn't. But I was like, "Dang, wild."
So bring it back to me. So you had you were working at a company, you're just doing kind of undifferentiated WordPress setup for customers.
Hmm.
You you stumbled into an actual SaaS where you were going to do sales portal for compounding pharmacies. Things are going well, and then it turns out that all your customers are committing crimes. Did the FBI
Right.
ever raid you, or not raid, but like a subpoena your company that you know of, and get like the billing records so that they could find other people who are probably doing the same thing?
I don't know. We asked our CEO about that because again, like they're the FBI. They know what we're doing, and we're right next to them. Like so,
Hmm.
surely our CEO has talked to them about this. I assume. Again, I don't know the full story there, but I would imagine. I mean, if I was the CEO, I would be a little, want to go ahead and be very forward with law enforcement to be like, we provide a portal for them. We're not helping them commit fraud or anything like that. Um, but yeah, I honestly don't really know what kind of conversations were had between between them.
So what happened then? Did the product fall apart? Did you stop having paying customers?
Well, some of the customers were legit, so we lost like 60% of our customers. So the rest of them were, I guess, were just normal compounding pharmacies, just trying to compound stuff. Um, However, it spooked a lot of people in the
Hmm.
company, and everyone kind of started looking around for like a backup, assuming that the dominoes were going to fall. Like maybe the other people that remain actually are just not rated yet. You don't really know. Um, and then we had a chat that well, I won't go too into the details with other things there, but basically we found out that the funding wasn't what we thought it was. Um, I was asked if I could stay on for the year, like just
Hmm.
commit to be there and not leave, basically. And at the time it was like February or something, so that was a long commitment. And I was like, yeah, I just kind of felt like I was talking to the CEO and I felt kind of forced to say yes because it was my only source of income. And there's not like a huge number of other tech jobs you can find in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. At the time, you either worked for Deloitte or you worked for some rando startup, or you just left. So I said yes, and then I ended up kind of leaving anyway, which I felt bad about because I shouldn't have said yes. But again, I just felt like my arm was twisted. But I ended up looking around at that point too, and it's actually how I ended up in Chicago. I at that point I was like, let me look around. I found a Stack Overflow advertisement for the next job of mine. Applied for it as a joke because I was like, there's no way I'm going to uproot my entire life and move 900 miles away to a brand new state. And then they liked me enough and they paid for everything. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll move 900 miles away.
So
But
what
yeah,
happened to did the startup, did that company survive or did it go under?
it was sold,
Hmm.
but it failed, I would say. But I guess at the end, there were only a certain amount of assets the company owned.
Hmm.
Everybody kind of fell off, and from what I understand, the company was sold maybe to one of the pharmacies that wanted to keep using it just as like a on-premise software or something like that.
Hmm.
But then I did remember I said I had equity. So since
Yeah,
the company sold, I got my check in the mail for $89, I believe it was. That was my
that
2.5% of the company.
hey, your first company out of college had an exit and you got a check in the mail. That is still better than 99%
That's a great way to phrase it. Yeah.
of that. Like yes, it wasn't Google. And you didn't get you didn't become a millionaire, but you got a check.
Yeah, I came away positive for my
You
first
came away
startup.
positive.
I should just leave it very abstract and put that on a resume somewhere.
My first company eventually had an exit for which I was minimally involved and responsible, but I think I got like $1,000.
Oh,
And I was like,
that's pretty good actually.
at the time I was like, oh man, look at this. Blah, blah, blah. And now I'm like, yeah, I got more than nothing. Sweet.
Right. Yeah. I actually still have the check around here. I kept it because I was like, I'm going to frame this check and be like,
Oh,
this
you
is what
didn't cash
happens when
it?
you gamble on equity. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess for $89.
Not
Mine
bad.
was all digital. I didn't have a chance for a check.
But yeah, that's how my first company's customers got raided by the FBI and how our products didn't really make it.
So the moral of the story is dumpster diving.
Go dumpster diving.
Yes.
Yeah, you'll never know what you can find, even if it seems completely unrelated to your life at the moment.
Awesome.
I'm gonna ask him about the briefcase next time I see him.
Yes, we need a picture of the briefcase for the show notes.
That's a good idea. I'm gonna ask him. Yeah.
Yes, the story of the briefcase. Awesome. Well, thank you for listening to Fuck Up Friday. Sorry, this is Never Rewrite. We're keeping the brand, even though we're totally off topic. Thanks for listening to Never Thanks for listening to Never Rewrite. I'm Jeffrey Sherman.
And I'm Isaac Askew.